First step in starting a fire with flint and steel is to catch the spark, which we use a piece of char cloth for that. And I talked about char cloth in an earlier video, but it's basically just a piece of natural fabric, either cotton or linen, that's been burned at a low temperature. Once the char cloth has a spark, we put it into a piece of burlap. You could also use paper or something similar. And we start blowing on it to get a little bit of airflow and hopefully get a flame here in a sec. So with our flame, we give the burlap time to catch, and then we move it into the fire pot of the forge, which this forge, you build the fire pot on top of the cast iron with either bricks or sand or clay, pretty much anything like that. Once we have our flame going, you can start applying piling twigs on top. And if you have fat lighter, which is just a very rosinous piece of pine, that works well for this purpose. But we're going to build a wood fire before we start raking our coal. And once that's going well enough, we can use the blower that's attached to the forge. Now this forge is pretty interesting because the design dates to the mid-1880s. It's a fairly early example of a bottom blast forge. It uses a large pulley which drives a leather belt that's attached to a smaller pulley on the blower motor. After a few minutes of applying air, you should be able to get to forging temperature. You want to look down into the fire and make sure that your coal is actually lighting, that you're getting good combustion. Ideally you'd want to start the fire with coke first, which is just coal that's been cooked at a very high temperature, has a high carbon content. I could make a different style of handle, at least a little bit longer of a handle, but this works pretty well. For this project, or this restoration, I just used a broken axe handle, and I cut it down to size. And I made the linkage, which is just really a series of S-hooks that connect to the gear quadrant. From what I can tell, this design remained in use, at least for the early part of the 20th century, before the hand crank blowers that most blacksmiths know took over and became more popular. So thanks for watching, and I hope you are inspired to try flint and steel in your own forge.